folks. Welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Well, the big news today in the media is that President Biden and Xi Jinping met for a teleconference call. They met through face-to-face internet, screen-to-screen, I guess is the proper term to say. And there's, well, a lot of speculation about what was talked about, because right now it seems to be the big worry, the big kind of tension is, where is China going to fall in this in regards to Russia and Ukraine? Is China going to in some way back up Russia, whether through financial, economy, trade? Are they going to back them up militarily by, giving or selling them equipment? Or are they actually going to be physically involved in this? There's a wide spectrum there. And up till now, it's been a little uncertain as to where China's stance is, at least if you look at just what's being told in the mainstream media. But I don't think it takes too long to kind of uncover really where China probably is going to stand and what that could mean, because I think it could drastically change what's going on and could be one of those big things that compel us into a world war. So I want to talk about that. In the media today, they're reporting, and you kind of have to be a little careful about what you're reading, because the media is all reporting that that Xi Jinping said that Ukraine must be free, and didn't condone the invasion of Russia and everything. But if you dig a little bit, all the news media sources that are saying that are quoting Chinese media. That's right, the media in China, which is controlled by the government. They don't have free press there. And the Chinese controlled media has said that during that meeting with Biden, that Putin said, or that Xi Jinping said that Ukraine should be free, and that he did not condone these actions, and he wanted a peaceful resolution. Well, number one, the Chinese media doesn't really have a reputation of being trustworthy. I mean, neither does ours, okay? We all know that. But certainly not theirs, and they definitely, at least on the level that our media does, but probably much more, they spin it to their favor. There's a lot of propaganda in it, and in fact, to the point that they're not really even allowed to criticize their own government. The Associated Press stated that Biden laid out what his expectations were for China, and laid out to China that if you help Russia in any way, the consequences will be severe. But the Associated Press said that Xi Jinping did not make any concessions, that he did not agree to anything, or made it sound like that he really didn't say much of anything about this, that maybe he talked around it, but he never directly made any promises or commitments to what Joe Biden had said. And so that's a little troublesome. It's interesting to me that through all this, that everyone keeps saying, well, China, they're kind of like the odd one out there, and that, they may not be involved. They may not support Russia. The news media has gone back and forth on whether it appears that China is going to support Russia. It appears that maybe they're not. It appears that the relationship's a little shaky. My personal opinion, and this is just my personal opinion, that none of that's true, that China and Russia are pretty much buddies on this, okay? Xi Jinping has stated that Putin is one of his best friends. I mean, he has actually said that, and that's really strange, because neither of these these two, between Xi Jinping and Putin, seem to be the type to even have a best friend. Back on February 4th, and I've talked about this several times, at the Olympics, the two of them met, which was very unusual, and they both met, and they pledged to a commitment to each other. And this was in the news, that they pledged a commitment to each other to support each other in the matters of Russia and Ukraine, and China with Taiwan, and that it was unlimited support to each other, and that they pledged together to take down the West, and specifically the United States. So when you hear something like that, and then the things that are happening now, I don't know how a person could even begin to think that China is backing off. Later on, after Russia invaded, it was reported that that China had asked Putin to hold off the invasion of Ukraine until after the Olympics, which he did. So there again, it tells me that China must have known. I mean, if they knew that was going on, they had to have known, or they wouldn't have made this request. If they thought that, if they had no inside knowledge and was just believing what Putin and the Russian media was saying, which at that time was that, oh, this is just military training. We have no intention of invading Ukraine. That was what was being told. They obviously knew something else, and obviously Russia, complied with China's request. Now, I hear a lot of people online, whether the left or on the right, people that are conservatives, people in our camp of kind of the preparedness minded, and then people that are liberty minded and that see through all the lies. Even in that camp, I see a lot of people say that there's no way that China would want to go up against us because they are their economy is very tethered to ours. They're beholden to our economy. While it would hurt us, it would also damage them. And so because of that money flow between the two economies, and on various different things, debt and just trade and all this kind of stuff, that there's just no way that China would risk destroying that. My opinion is again, that's not true. There are several articles, if you get out there and you start doing some digging, over the last 2 to 4 years, talking about how, how China and Xi Jinping is trying to shift the Chinese economy away from capitalism and back to what they call a form of Maoism. In other words, they want to shift it away from capitalism and back to its roots as a communist nation and a communist economy. There's articles talking about how that they're worried that they're becoming too Americanized. And we've seen that even in their military and other laws that's been changed in the last year or so, where they've made laws that, they can't portray men as feminine in their media, in their television and things like that. They have they have mandatory laws now that boys have to go through masculinity training and stuff, and it's because they fear this very feminized male that's coming from the West. And so there's a lot to indicate that China is getting to the point that they don't really care about that relationship and all that money that our two economies benefit from, that they're willing to potentially lose that capitalistic market, that free market, that influx of money coming from Americans, as long as it gets them back to their roots. There's a lot out there that talks about this. It doesn't take too long to find the information on it. So there's that. I don't think the fear of jeopardizing their economic stance with us in that relationship is really enough to keep them from doing what they might do. Another thing is that over the last several years, China themselves have made several statements, Xi Jinping and other officials, that their ultimate goal is to take over the world. They want to be the world leader. They want, and they believe that by 2049, China will be the world leader in every way. And they believe that they can do it. They believe that their currency will be supreme and that their economy will be supreme. So I'm not completely convinced that China is a little too afraid to go up against the United States. I think they see it that between them and Russia and their allies, taking on America right now, especially in the state that we're in, might be a lot easier job than what they thought. This morning, and there's little incursions happening. Of course, we know what's been going on with Taiwan, and there's little by little incurring into Taiwanese airspace. Well, this morning, just a couple of hours before Xi Jinping met with Biden, a Chinese aircraft carrier went through the Taiwanese Strait. And just kind of as a show of strength to let America know that we're not really afraid of you. There's intelligence apparently that Russia has information that China is preparing to invade Taiwan by the fall. And I saw some different reports, one of them saying the fall this year, one of them was saying fall next year. But either way, the point is that they have plans, according to this report, that Russia has seen plans that China does intend on invading Taiwan. So I've said all this, and there's more, but I don't want this video to go too long. The point is that I don't see that there's enough evidence to indicate that China doesn't want to be involved in this and doesn't want to support Russia. I mean, the whole world is just foaming at the mouth, jumping all over themselves to criticize and to sanction and to tear down Russia. China has had plenty of time to do so. And typically, when someone is on the fence this much, when there's this much pressure, and they still have not come out and clearly stated that they don't support Russia and that they don't condone these actions, then it's usually because they actually do support Russia and do support these actions. My gut feeling is that they do. And even though they may say a little bit, or their media may leak it, or they might do a little thing about, sanctioning Russia just a little bit, I think it's very clear that they support what's going on. If they didn't, and if what Russia is doing goes against any agreements they have, wouldn't it make sense that China come out and say, whoa, wait a minute, we've been buddies with Russia for a long time, but we didn't know about this, and we don't agree with this, because China wouldn't want to go down with Russia, would they? And so because they haven't said anything, they haven't made any kind of commitment to stand against Russia, I kind of feel like that they don't ever intend to. And if that's the case, one has to wonder how far China will go to support Russia. I mean, they did make a commitment. And they made a commitment that under no circumstances would they break that commitment. What appeared to be an ironclad commitment to support Russia in Ukraine. Now, if all that happens and China becomes more involved, well, where does that put us? My opinion, it puts us in a really, really bad position. Because while we could most likely defeat Russia in a conventional war, defeating Russia and China in a conventional war would probably stretch us way too thin. And while, of course, there would be a bunch of allies involved in us, if you took all of those allies and put them together, they don't have a military anywhere near the size of ours. And when you add Russia and China together, they far outweigh the size and the firepower in our military. I understand. There's a few things that we've got them beat on, like aircraft carriers. But they've got us beat in a lot of other ways. And Russia's nuclear capabilities far exceeds ours, not just in the number of bombs, but in the technological delivery systems that they have. Their ability to deliver them in far greater numbers than ours, they definitely exceed us. So as far as World War III, and if it happened between us and our allies in China and Russia, I don't think that would be a very good one at all, and that could definitely reach the levels of Armageddon that's talked about in the Bible, and that should be something to worry about. And I think that we are probably closer to that now than we've ever been. The things that are happening just don't look good. I know there's lots of reports that Russia's doing bad, and maybe they are in certain areas, but I don't think that those reports are all correct. I've seen a few American sources. There was one I can't find the source, or I would show it on here, but so you just take it at my word if you want. But there was a general, and some of you may have seen it. I believe he was on one of the Fox News or something, and he was stating that the intelligence that he's seen completely contradicts what the media is saying, that Russia is not doing bad at all, and that that Ukraine is not being this great victor in this fight. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. The fact is that I don't think that Putin is the type to back down either. I cannot imagine him just tucking tail and running and just hiding away. He's just not that kind of person, and neither is China or Xi Jinping. So the more this goes on, I think the greater possibility for World War III. And that's something that we should be really worried about. I mean, right now, the U.S. government is warning of potential cyber attacks to our satellites. That's a huge deal. If our satellites start getting taken down, I mean, we're talking everything from GPS to cell phones to the internet itself. It all runs through satellites. And it would cause absolute chaos in the United States. The possibility of EMP, nuclear, all sorts of things could happen in a war like that. And while I'm not predicting it would happen, I am telling you that the things that are kind of lining up right now are looking stronger and stronger in that direction. And I think it is something to worry about. I mean, we talk enough about the food supply and the economy and all those things that are certainly legitimate. But man, if this happens, and it wouldn't take much, an accidental, a false flag, it doesn't take much to cause something like this to start. And if that does happen, it would be a war that this planet has never seen before. None of us, even those of you that has served in actual war, could even imagine what would happen if Russia and China and the United States and all of our allies on either side get together for a big old war. It would be bigger than anything. And casualties, I'm sure, total casualties would be 1 billion or 2. And that's some serious estimates that's been projected of what would happen in a war like this. We wouldn't necessarily be safe here in the United States either. So folks, I would pay attention to this. This is one of those things we need to set up and listen, because while we may not be right there yet, as I've said before, we are headed down that path. And if nothing changes, sure, there's a lot of chances for it to change, but if nothing changes, that's the direction we're headed. So certainly stock up. And once something like that happens, getting the stuff that you want to get to prep and to survive is going to be really, really hard to do, if not impossible. So certainly start preparing now for that if you haven't already, and then continue preparing. Get yourself ready. All right, folks. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.